much too complex, too complex, much too complex, too complex, too complex, too complex.
Good afternoon. My name is James K. Holder II. Some of you may know me as Sir James II, and I'd like to welcome you back to Not on My Watch. As always, I'd like to ask you to like, share, and comment. I want you to retweet and repeat this, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and help me spread this message, because I definitely want to make sure that we're providing a progressive platform so that everyone can have a seat at this table. Today is March 1st, but I'm going to treat it a little bit like it's February 29th. There was just so much going on with Black History Month, and I would be remiss if I did not take this time to acknowledge the blackest Academy Awards ever. So, you know, we all know the previous year, in 2016, the Academy Awards was Oscar So White, where we had to have Chris Rock host and really just make fun of all the attendees who were, you know, the black actors and actresses. Many of them were boycotting that year. And so it was really important to see, boycotting the fact that there were no actor nominations for artists of color. And so it's really important to acknowledge that, one, this year it was the complete opposite. There were multiple actors of color in all of the acting categories. There was representation. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, you know, sometimes we get, with America, what we have is a call and response. Something happens and you have to call out for it, and then there's a response. So with the Academy Awards, it was an opportunity to say, okay, we want our contributions to be valued and acknowledged. And it wasn't saying, give us more or be nicer to us. It was just saying, okay, there are many black pictures here within the space, within the forum. They should be recognized within the context of the awards ceremony. So it was nice to see that the voting body definitely took that in consideration. And in this year, a few of the key highlights. One, Viola Davis, y'all know I love me some Viola, became the first African-American woman to win an Academy Award in acting alongside an Emmy Award and a Tony. This is really significant. Now, there is a slight difference. We have Whoopi Goldberg, who previously is the only other black artist, black person who has all four, the Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony. The distinction is that Whoopi Goldberg's Tony Award, I believe, was for being a producer, not so much for being an actress. Either her Emmy or her Tony were for being a producer. So Viola Davis as an actress has gotten 3 of the 4 major awards. And so, you know, we'll see what happens. She could get to that other, you know, level with the Grammy at some point. But kudos to you, Viola, on your accomplishments. Separate from that, we had Mahershala Ali, who was an actor in Hidden Figures, Not Hidden Fences, as well as Moonlight. And he was nominated for Moonlight, for his role in that movie, which was phenomenal. He's the reason I went to go see that movie, the initial reason I went to go see the movie. And he won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, making him the first Muslim recipient of an acting Academy Award ever. So we're talking about 80 or so years of Academy Awards, and there's never been a Muslim to win an acting award. It's good that we're making progress, it's good that we're making strides, but it's just really, really interesting that it's happening now. And also, considering all of the sort of the tension and the onslaught of anger and hatred against Muslims, against people of color with the Trump administration, it's good to see, again, that call and that response. And there's something that's happening, even if it's in small measure, that is saying that this is not accepted, this is not tolerated. So congratulations to you, sir. Lastly, I want to focus on Moonlight, because this was my favorite movie of the year. It's probably my favorite movie of the day. Well, I'm going to say, I don't know. It was a really, really, really great movie. And I went to see it twice with 2 separate, close, very, very close friends. And I love that movie. It's a really good movie. I mean, it was nominated, I believe, in 7 categories. It ended up winning, including Mahershala Ali's award for supporting actor, it also won Best Adapted Screenplay, which is a huge deal when you think about it. Having a black screenplay or a black author, playwright, well not playwright, but screenwriter, receive an award for that, it was significant. And so in watching the awards, which I didn't watch the whole awards, I just kind of watched the last hour, it really was interesting to see. I kind of figured, like, once they got that award, I figured they were going to get the Best Picture. But, you know, you never know, because it's this whole game. So, of course, the show goes on, and at the end, the very tail end, we find out, ultimately, that Moonlight was awarded the Best Picture. This is incredibly significant because Moonlight as a movie it was only black people. There were no white people in this movie. No extras as white people. There were no, nothing. Not even, you didn't see people on the street in the movie. Nobody in the movie was white. It was a all black cast. The director was black. The writer was black. Every aspect of this film was a black film. And it is the first time that an all black cast has won the Best Picture award. It is also the first time that any LGBT-related film or focused film has received the Best Picture award as well. So there are two firsts there. And it's just really significant. And what also I want to really celebrate with this film is that it really put a spotlight on the concept of intersectionality, which is something we talk about frequently here, where you have different communities that intersect. You might have the black community intersecting with the LGBT community, or you can have someone who is black and who is a Muslim like Mahershala Ali. You could have someone who is black and also Hispanic, or someone who is black and also has the intersection of interest in that they are a woman or that they are disabled. And so it's important to understand that characters being spotlighted and focused on in that vein are highly relatable because they're more complex. In some ways, this movie bridges a gap between two communities that might not see, eye to eye. There's, long talk, and this is just sort of anecdotal, but there's always been this sort of, people talk about this racism in the LGBT community. They also talk about homophobia within the black community. And I think having a movie like this celebrated on such a high platform, despite all the hoopla, is something to really be excited about. So if you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend that you go see it. The acting is brilliant. Janelle Monáe is radiant in this film. She was great in Hidden Figures as well, but Janelle Monáe's character in Moonlight really, she will take your heart. She's really, really brilliant. And it's a fairly small part, but Naomi Harris did an excellent job. Of course, Mahershala Ali did a phenomenal job. That's why he won the Best Actor, the Best Supporting Actor nomination, and all three Chirons in the film are phenomenal. They do a really, really, really good job. So if you haven't seen it, it's a must-see film. I recommend that. Separate, I don't even want to talk about the whole switched up the card thing. I will just say that when you have a production so high, like Miss Universe or like the Academy Awards, you really have to do your due diligence and go above and beyond in making sure that these people's experience is protected. In the case of Miss Universe, in the case of the Academy Awards, you have people, this is the highlight of their life. This is what they've worked for over a year. They've worked for this for so long. As the productions of these programs, these TV shows, whether it's the network, whether it's the behind the scenes, whoever, you got to do a better job. You got to get competent people to host this stuff. You got to get people who are good at making sure the right name is on the envelope, that the design of the envelope of the card it works for the presenter. Run the presenters through a dry run. Make sure they know what the card is going to look like. We have to do better about this because, people say, oh, well, we'll always remember like the Miss Universe who won that year because of it. I don't remember her name. I couldn't tell you the winner's name. I couldn't even tell you the winner's country. I know that Colombia was the one who thought she won, but I think Philippines was the one who ultimately won. I couldn't even tell you definitively. Like if somebody said for $1 million who, I wouldn't know. I'd have to Google. I had to phone a friend. So y'all got to do better about that. And same thing with this. To me, you could argue that there were layers of racism, but it is quite unfortunate that in a display in such a significant win, you have an independent film that against all odds against every odd. The financial segment, the racial aspect, everything should have lost this award, but won, and it's overshadowed. And the next day, people weren't talking about how brilliant of a film this was and how it can bridge these two communities. People were talking about, Faye Dunaway and, the guy from PricewaterhouseCoopers sending tweets with, what's her name? Emma Stone. Congratulations to Emma Stone on your Academy Award win. I just really think we have to protect those people's interests, because it's not about watching, it's not about views. And the more we do that, we just are pandering to the gutter. I don't care if it's intentional or not. Do better. Let's see. Speaking of shit show television performances, I will jump right into the joint sessions from last night. This was the president's first address to Congress since the inauguration. And in this, what you have to understand about this whole scene, this is one of those sort of ceremonial things. You kind of do a little update. I think he's been in office, don't misquote me, it's been if this is 28 days plus 10 days, so he's been in office for 38 days. Today is the 39th. And so you really have a scenario where he's going up and trying to present a strong face, despite all of the speculation about the Russia interfering with the hacking and his colluding with them, and investigations that are coming up, and some GOP legislators actually discussing the idea of joining on to support an independent investigation that is not, compromised by Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who we will get to later. Again, because we're going to be talking about Jeff Sessions a lot, so just pay attention. But I just want to discuss briefly what happened. It was an hour-long program, exactly. About 25 of those minutes were just raucous applause from paid protesters, aka the GOP. And they were just there on the side, and after every sentence, they just stopped him to clap and stand up and clap. I mean, I was just like, this is like a workout for these people. I know these people ain't been to the gym. But that joint session, joke session was with Jeff Sessions, was really a really kind of an energetic and enthusiastic workout for some lazy people who don't do their jobs. So I was glad to see they got off their asses for once, or twice, or 3 times, or probably by the end of the night, everybody on the right side of your screen had probably done about 100 squats, because they kept standing up to give standing ovations to the same nonsense that Trump was saying. And to his credit now, I'm not going to say he was presidential. Trump was calm. Trump did not look like he was on any performance-enhancing drugs. He wasn't sniffling, snorting. He wasn't leaning out, holding to his podium for once. I mean, this was not the same guy that we saw in the debates against Hillary Clinton. Unfortunately, his tactics have not evolved since the debates. He was still campaigning, and he employed a really sleazy measure of communicating his policies. And I just want to talk about a few of the things that he did. So he trotted out all these people. And these people were sort of representatives of people he should have been apologizing to all year, and brought them out as sort of like a kumbaya moment, but he still didn't apologize. So that became the problem for me. There was a disabled student from, I believe, don't quote me on this, she either goes to like Vanderbilt or Duke. She goes to like a real school. And she has this disability, and she was there because it was Rare Diseases Day in the United States, apparently. And so she has a rare disease. I don't know the name of this disease. I wouldn't be surprised if it were the same disease that Shirley Funke had in the much lauded television series Arrested Development. Some devotees will understand what that means. I don't know, but she was there. She looked very nice. Her makeup was amazing. She had her nails done. Girl was looking great. And she was there, and he's talking about how, thank God she's alive, because her father was able to find this drug that took the FDA forever to approve. So because of her, in her honor, I'm going to take away regulations for the Food and Drug Administration so people like her can survive who have rare diseases. And it kind of it's like one, she's in a wheelchair. She's very similar to the man, the journalist that Trump insulted, who didn't corroborate his story about the Muslims cheering on the tops of roofs in Jersey City when 9/11 happened. And so instead of apologizing to that gentleman, instead of apologizing to her or other disabled Americans, he just kind of trots her out and says, okay, well, because of you, we're all in your honor, we're going to strip the protections of American people of the Food and Drug Administration. Thank you. Which really, we already don't have high enough standards on our food, and Lord knows drugs, if the insurance companies and big pharma had it their way, they'd be pushing all kind of stuff out to the market without, restrictions and without, proper trials and protections for us. So that's obviously not a good thing. But it's within the agenda because it works for those big businesses. It works for big pharma. So that was one person. Next, you had the black student who shall remain nameless. Again, looked very nice, couldn't have looked happier. She was there with her father. And Trump starts to talk about her story and how she failed the third grade twice and how she was a hopeless student with no opportunity. And until, thank the Lord, opened the skies and a beam of light shone down on this charter school, and her father was able to enroll her in this special charter school that was able to prepare her and make a way for her, and now she's getting her master's degree, and it was a great story. But again, the anecdotal solutions, taking this one case of this one person who knows why they had those particular challenges, and then using it as this broad brush for a solution for 320 million Americans, I think is sort of always misguided. Anecdotal evidence is not evidence. So nice try, but try again. And it didn't help that, so of course, this was in support of the Department of Education's Betsy Belle Biv DeVoe's approach to, because she's poison, approach to taking, basically shutting down and eliminating public schools. They've already talked about, well, we should take away free lunch from public schools. Yesterday was, in conjunction with the meeting of all of the heads of HBCUs and the trustees and everything, all these black people in the Oval Office, and Kellyanne Con artist, no home training, have herself, has got her feet all up on the White House sofa, taking Snapchat pictures and all kind of stuff. And I'm just kind of like, okay, if you were there taking pictures of them, why was someone taking pictures of you? That's what I didn't understand about the picture that was released. And it's just a strange visual, because you have this woman on her knees, this white blonde woman on her knees, and there's at least like 25 black men standing around her. It was real questionable. Real questionable. So I'm going to put that out there, and I know you've seen the photo. If not, it's here somewhere in the visual. But that was bad. And you also had the announcement that Betsy DeVos made an announcement in honor of Black History Month and historically black, because again, it's February 29th, it's not March 1st, to say simply that she cherished and honored historically black colleges and universities for being the pioneers of school choice. And it's kind of like, girl, this wasn't a choice. Like, black people couldn't go to historically, white colleges. They couldn't, I went to Georgia Tech. You couldn't go to Georgia Tech in those years. And my mom graduated from high school in a year. She would not have been able to enroll in the college where I attended and got my degrees. So, shout out to Georgia Tech. Speaking of first, I want to give a special shout out to Dr. Gary May, who is retiring as the first African American dean of the College of Engineering at Georgia Tech. Huge deal. He was one of many firsts, my personal mentor. Kudos, and we're going to miss you as you go off to California, but I don't blame anybody for leaving a red state to go to a blue state in these years. So I hope you and the family enjoy your time there. And that was just a shameless hello to my friend and mentor, and also my alma mater. But, HBCUs did not really exist in that space. Bringing it back, in conjunction with that idiotic remark, they're also saying that, now HBCUs are going to be removed from the Department of Education, or the HBCU initiative is going to be removed from the Department of Education and placed into the executive office of the White House. So this means probably less oversight to whatever the HBCU initiative would be. It also didn't come with a dollar amount. So let's talk dollars. When you say you want to do something, you put a dollar amount to it. And yes, Congress has to approve it. But ultimately, if you want to be serious about it, you put a number. So let's talk numbers. During Barack Obama's years, President Barack Obama's years, there was a $4 billion initiative in this particular effort over the course of 7 years. This was an increase from George W. Bush's years. One of the campaign promises of Hillary Clinton was a $25 billion contribution to this effort. There was never a mention of historically black colleges and universities from Donald Trump. And I always have to remind people that Bernie Sanders' free public tuition plan would have required the federal defunding of private historically black colleges under this plan. Now, of course, there are many public black colleges which would have had the same benefit as any other public university under that plan, but the private ones would have been harmed. They would have been harmed in that process until he was confronted about it, and then he said, "Okay, I won't reduce it begrudgingly at a town hall in South Carolina." But that's neither here nor there, because neither of those people became president. So the $25 billion that Hillary Clinton promised sort of was washed away. But now you had in this meeting with Kellyanne Conradis taking photos, and all of these delegates from the black colleges and universities, they're asking for a $25 billion commitment. So it's just unfortunate that where an opportunity stood for us as a community to put our voice behind the preservation and the support of historically black colleges, we missed an opportunity to support an ally within that, and now we're asking for an opportunity from someone who really apparently couldn't care less. And there was a specific executive order associated with the HBCUs, and it says a lot of nice things, but again, it doesn't come with a dollar amount. And we know that, if you show me the money, that's how you know somebody's serious about something. Historically black colleges and universities, for those of you who don't know, are a very significant part of culture. There would be no MLK if there were no Morehouse College. Briefly, historically black colleges were significant in my journey because when I applied to college, I applied to about 7 schools, private. I applied all basically within the Southeast, with the exception of Howard University. And I applied to about half HBCUs and half public universities. And what was great is that it gave me choices because all of the black schools I applied to had scholarship money for me, even though many of them were private. And so it gave me the option to decide between going to Georgia Tech, which was in-state, and it was local. It was local to my home. It ended up being the least expensive option, even though I only had the Hope Scholarship for a little while. But it gave me an opportunity as a student to make a choice. And I think even for students who didn't attend black colleges, even if you aren't black colleges provide opportunities for students who sometimes either had a disciplinary problem on their record, something like a suspension that would keep you out of the competition for like a higher scholarship at one of the more competitive public universities. They kind of will be more lenient on stuff like that. Or they will give you opportunities to kind of show your value as a student outside of just the test scores and just the GPA. You know what I mean? If you are a good public speaker, if you have strong leadership ability, HBCUs are a lot more likely to look into those things from an applicant. They take a much more holistic view for an applicant, and their minimums on test scores tend to be a little bit lower. So once you get in, then you're seeing who you're with. And then really, there's this idea that, just like with the Academy Awards, a black movie is not as good as the white movie. A black college is not as good as the historically or predominantly white college, a PWI. And it's just not the case. There are promising students who attend HBCUs at every level. Many cases, most of the time what you'll find is that the students who attend HBCUs are much more prepared and are more successful when they go off to perform at the higher level of education to get a PhD or get a JD or a master's or an MBA. So, let's just throw that out there. HBCUs have a value to all students, not just black students, not just students who attend HBCUs. So let's keep those protected. And Wendy Williams, I forgive you from your comments from last year. There were 2 other people I want to mention. On on a day where Donald Trump actually, and for the record, we're still talking about the joint/joke sessions featuring Jeff Sessions, where the president addressed Congress. There, earlier yesterday, Donald Trump had blamed the military, who had always wanted to go in and do this Yemen raid, and he just let them convince him. This was why he was not in the situation when the raid happened. And of course, we know, we wanted to say rest in peace to the Navy SEAL Ryan Owens, who lost his life in that raid. Many people, of course, blame Donald Trump. Of course, Donald Trump blames anyone but himself. He didn't even bother to be in the Situation Room when it was happening, and now he's blaming them. The father of that slain brave soldier now wants an investigation into the death of his son, which wouldn't be unreasonable, seeing as how there were multiple investigations into Benghazi. Jason in the house, I'm looking in your direction. I don't see why you can't investigate this. So Trump is receiving fire from yet another Gold Star family. Trump is receiving fire from the military because he's blaming the military for what happened in light of the accusations from the father. And also, so to assuage that, Donald Trump enlists the grieving widow of Ryan Owens. She is there sitting next to Ivanka Trump, who is dressed in one of her hot pink, hot messes of a dress, trying to get some advertising because clearly, they don't sell her stuff in Nordstrom's or even Nordstrom Rack or Dagon. They don't sell her stuff anywhere no more. So she's trying to get as much TV promo. And a little nice off-the-shoulder number. I mean, I've seen it in, an 80s music video. I'm surprised she didn't have a sideways ponytail, but, Ivanka's going to be Ivanka. She's sitting next to this grieving widow who gets the spotlight when Trump talks about how brave her husband was. And it's just kind of disgusting, right? Because you have this man who you really threw to the wolves. You didn't care enough to watch the mission where he sacrificed his life for us. I'm not even sure what the basis of that raid was, but, Trump is saying, oh, well, it got so much great intelligence. It got great intelligence on the raid, so it really helped us and helped us. But in previous statements from the military, they were saying there was no significant capture of anything. There was really no benefit to it. So what you saw in there was a lot of manipulation, a lot of lies, and there was a lot of clapping. And of course, everyone clapped at that section. She was crying, and she was you could tell she was there for her husband. She wasn't there for the spectacle of what this ceremony was. But Donald Trump used that to his own benefit to then promote the idea that we don't have a strong enough military. And that we need to invest more in the military and military spending, and we need to win wars. So I don't know if that means he's going to start a war at some point to prove that we can win them, to I guess, celebrate this slain soldier, this fallen soldier, and honor his family as he dodges questions from the father of the Navy SEAL. I couldn't make sense of it. There was a lot of nonsense there. And lastly, there was a new initiative, another one. And this is in association with the previous executive orders from Donald Trump that we discussed last week, which were now it's called the Victims of Immigrant Crime Engagement. And so for this, he had a slew of families trotted out, placed in the front row of the gallery, right next to Melania Trump, who was dressed like she was going to a funeral. And I can't say I blame her. Nice funeral, though. It had the little sparkly things on it. She looked nice. And, they were just sitting there, and it's just families of people who had been killed by illegal immigrants. So he's just continuing this rhetoric, continuing this, Muslims are evil, and we have to increase military spending. Immigrants are evil, so we have to build the wall. We have to increase the ICE raids. And it was really just a shameful spectacle. There are many groups working over the night that were working over the night to present the fact checking from that speech. I don't have time to go through all that stuff here, but if you're interested, you can search any one of the mainstream media ones, and they can probably provide you a quote for quote of what was so egregious about it. I do want to give a shout out to the Democratic woman who paid homage to Hillary Clinton and wore white even though it's after Labor Day, I forgive you. They wore white to this ceremony, and some abstained completely. Of course, we all know Auntie Maxine Waters stayed away. In other news, moving on from the joint sessions with Jeff Sessions to just Jeff Sessions. Try saying that 10 times fast. Jeff Sessions has already revoked the voter ID case in Texas. Now, we talked about all of the things, we talked about Coretta Scott King already, we talked about everything, And so we knew this man was dangerous to the franchise. We knew he was someone who was going to pursue actions that were going to harm the voting rights and civil rights of African Americans and also Latinos. And in accordance with Trump's propaganda that 3 million illegal Mexicans voted in illegal Mexicans, because that is not a term that we use. If you're referring to immigrants who are not American citizens, we would say undocumented immigrants, of course. This is something I learned specifically from Joy Reid, so thank you, Joy Reid. And, not that someone had to tell me that illegal was a negative term, but just when he uses it, it is an insult, and so that's a term that should be avoided if we didn't already know that. But so Trump's claimed that 3 million illegal Mexicans voted in California, and that's why Hillary Clinton got the popular vote over him. False. And then also, so in accordance with that false narrative, Jeff Sessions has been empowered to reverse the White House's position that's been held under the Obama DOJ. Shout out to Eric Holder, no relation, and also Loretta Lynch, who basically said that when states would bring about cases of voter ID or try to enforce voter ID laws on citizens, there was an intention to discriminate against citizens, whether it was because of their age or whether it was because of their ethnicity. And so this position reverses that so that the White House does not automatically take a defensive stand against states who employ a voter ID rule or law. So effectively they are enforcing discrimination. So that's just something I want you to look out for. And it's not a surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. But yeah, this is why we really need to focus on that as a key issue. Voting rights is an issue separate in and of itself. Congratulations to Tom Perez and also Keith Ellison, who are the chair and deputy chair of the Democratic National Committee. I do believe firmly that there will be a focus on voting rights from this duo, and I'm thankful for their ability to bury the hatchet and come together. I hope that others will, coalesce around this duo and really, in a show of support, celebrate and bring value for once in the Democratic Party to the idea of protecting the voting rights, because that's the most important thing. It's key to our future. So, with that, in closing, I want to give a special thank you to Elizabeth C. of Sanford, Florida. Now, what Elizabeth C. of Sanford, Florida did was she donated through the link on the website at holderstudio.com. You can also donate to this program at paypal.me/JKH2. And with that, anybody who contributes, of course, this is a self-funded project, so there isn't anything I need to do it. Of course, I drink coffee every day, so if somebody wants to buy me a cup of coffee, you can send me $1 to that PayPal account, and it'll be helpful. But other than that, I just kind of do this out of my own resources. Anything I receive on this effort of fundraising will go towards technology to help improve the program, help streamline it, maybe make the clarity a little bit better, make the audio a little better, or make it so that I can do more recordings because I'd have more resources to do it. So anything you can give would be helpful, and I will shout you out during the program in future programs. So again, thank you, Elizabeth C. And as always, visit the website, holderstudio.com, for a little more information. There is also a new Twitter page, which is at NotOnMyWatchTV. You can follow that page, and that's going to be like the more direct source for updates, as opposed to my Twitter page, which is my personal Twitter page, which is at JKH2, which I'm sure this is how most of you know about this. And lastly, remember to tune in every Wednesday at noon to watch Not on My Watch. Thank you again. Happy end to a wonderful Black History Month. Welcome to the month of March. And I'd like to, as always, invite you to relax, relate, and resist. Thank you.
Too complex.